Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to talk about my chronic illness reading list. I believe I do have reviews for each of these books here on my channel. There should be a playlist called like book reviews. They're technically not book reviews, they're like book recommendations, whether I recommend a book or whether I don't. But I wanted to make this video as a sort of must-haves for people with chronic illness or chronic pain, just to kind of put them all together in one video for you, and then you can decide if you're interested in one to go and see the individual video for that book. So there's only one book that I do not actually have a copy of that I recommend you buy a copy of. I actually got this book through the Hoopla app, which I think is LA County Library associated. I don't know if they associate with other counties, but I was able to check this book out, the audiobook, and listen to it. And it's called The Long COVID Survival Guide by Fiona Lowenstein. This is a must-have for anybody with chronic illness, especially if you are just starting out in the world of chronic illness. It's a great, excellent guidebook. Don't let the name fool you. It's not just for people with long COVID. It's for anybody with a chronic condition, ME/CFS, Lyme disease, MS, lupus, anybody that has an ongoing chronic condition. And it helps you navigate the healthcare system here in the US. It may be helpful for people maybe in Canada or where the healthcare system is similar to here. But it's just a really good book. And I just recently read that one. I did a review of that book as well. And it's I recommend the hard copy though, because that will be a book that you want to take with you to doctor's appointments, to refer to. It's going to be a book that you might want to take notes in, put sticky notes. That's why I recommend getting a hard copy. I don't have a hard copy of it. I just listened to the audiobook, and yes, it is a book that you need to have a physical copy of. It's not, it's not like a story that you're listening to. It's a guidebook, it's a handbook. It's definitely something that you need to refer back to. So that's probably, I want to say that that's number one on my list, especially if you are starting out in the world of chronic illness. So I would put that number one on your list. If you don't get any of the other books on this list, at least get that one, because it's going to save you a lot of trouble. I wish I had that book. That was a part of the reason why I didn't buy it, because I'm already like almost 20 years into chronic illness. A lot of the stuff in that book I've already learned, but there's still a lot of stuff in there that I would need to refer back to. But I was like, at this point, I'm so deep into it that I really wish I had had that book, even 10 years ago. So Long COVID Survival Guide is my number one must have. Now, the other books, you guys have heard me talk about these before. I actually recently reviewed, because she has 3 books. These are by Toni Bernard, How to Be Sick and How to Live Well with Chronic Pain and Illness. These 2 are specific to people with chronic conditions. But she does have another one that is How to Wake Up, and that one is just general for people that aren't sick. But these 2 I highly recommend. She is one of my favorite authors when it comes to chronic illness. What I like about these is that she gives you exercises, very easy to do exercises. I mean, you could do them laying down in bed. It's not something that requires, not like physical exercise, like mental exercises. And she also refers to Buddhist teachings, but she makes them very accessible, very easy to understand for those of us that don't know much about Buddhism. But she incorporates that into, into these practices that can help to reduce your anxiety and your stress in relation to your chronic illness. I have to go back and reread these 2 books because they're just so priceless. They were game changers for me because I was one of those people in the beginning that I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I didn't know how I was going to navigate such a massive, I started seeing a doctor and she was telling me I had to do all of these things. I had to do, B12 injections. I had to do, diet changes. It was so overwhelming. And reading these books, she sort of helps you to to put things into perspective and not overwhelm yourself, to give yourself some time to just be, really. I know that sounds kind of weird, but to just exist and to just take things as they are. And a lot of us with chronic illness, we really don't do that. We get so overwhelmed, or we're just constantly, obsessing or looking for something to fix. And there are moments where we have to stop, where we have to really stop and slow down and quiet our minds long enough to in order to know if we are going in the right direction. And those books are really, really good at helping you to sort of quiet your mind and focus on something other than your illness. And I do think that, if you get really good at those practices, it can reduce your distress, and they can also help with your physical distress as well. So I don't just see these books as, like, oh, just meditate and all of that. They can help you to reduce your physical distress. Obviously, it's not going to make your illness go away, but it can help reduce, you know, the overwhelmingness of it. So anything by Tony Bernard is great. Another one that also is good if you are in severe distress is the DBT Skills Workbook. If you don't know what DBT is, it's a type of therapy. It's called Dialectical Behavior Therapy. And this book, I got this book because I was really in a really, really bad place a few years ago when I was trying to get my IVIG, and I was really freaking out because I didn't know how I was going to do it. And every little thing was just like a disaster. If you are someone who catastrophizes, I don't know how to pronounce that word. If you are someone that just constant catastrophic thinking, the world is ending, every little thing is just a massive problem, this book would be good for you. This book is also good. This type of therapy is recommended for people who are suicidal, people that have borderline personality disorder. But to me, it's a type of therapy that is very, very good for people who are in acute psychological distress. It does have exercises. What I like is that it also has worksheets, so you can write directly in the book, or you can photocopy the worksheets and have them on hand so that when you start feeling that distress, you can just bust out a worksheet. That's what I did. I made several copies because I have like a printer here, and then just make several copies and bust one out when you're freaking out about something, and then do the exercises. And it has lots of different exercises in there. There are some exercises that are similar to what Tony Bernard has in her book, but it's put, it's just worded differently, but you'll see some similarities there. But that book is just, it can be a lifesaver because, again, it helps you put things into perspective. Is your current situation really as bad as you believe that it is? Or is this some way that you feel? It actually makes you work through those different, the different feelings, your perspective. Is this true? Is this not true? It brings your mind to focus, because a lot of times we do lose focus. We become so overwhelmed and we drown in our illness and in our psychological distress, and we need something to sort of anchor us in one place. We're just floating around everywhere, and we need something to kind of anchor us and make us focus long enough to get us past that acute distress, and then we can say, okay, now I need to come up with a game plan. How am I going to do this? So that book is excellent for that. I did a review on that book as well. It should be in my book reviews playlist. Now, these other books are actually books for your physical body. So this one is called the Trigger Point Therapy Workbook. I have little sticky notes in there. I've had this one for a long time, and I hate to say that I very much neglect it. This may not be as helpful if you have like ME/CFS, or if you're very, very weak, like in your arms and stuff. But I do have a Theracane. A Theracane is kind of like a candy cane looking device that you can use to get to trigger points. But this book has kind of helped me get out of some tough spots. Before I got this bad in my illness, there were smaller things that I would notice. Like I remember for a short while, I started going to like a track and doing like some light running or jogging, and all of a sudden like my ankles would just become really stiff, and I'm like, why is that happening? If I'm stretching, if I'm exercising them, if I'm moving them. um and what it was there was a trigger point. I mean, obviously I didn't know at the time that I was sick, but there was a trigger point somewhere in my calf muscle that was triggering that stiffness in the ankle. This book is really, really good at getting you to identify where the source of the pain or the stiffness is coming from. Because a lot of times, obviously, if you have stiffness in your ankle, you think, oh, it's my ankle. And a lot of times it isn't. It's referred pain or referred muscle tension from a different muscle, sometimes the calf muscle, sometimes in a different area. And that this book is really good at helping you figure that out. And it has, different sections for the different parts of the body, head and neck, arms, torso, legs. So everything is divided up so you can just go directly to the place, that you're having issues with. And it's nice because sometimes it'll drive you crazy thinking, why is my hand hurting, and I massage my hand and it's not feeling better. Well, it's because the pain is coming from somewhere else. So that book has been really good. And a lot of times you don't even need like the Theracane. You can use a tennis ball or any other kind of like rubber ball that you have at home. You can use your own body. Like if you could do a calf muscle massage with your other knee. So basically almost like crossing your legs and massaging your calf out with your knee. So it shows you kind of how to do things with your own body to sort of massage out those muscles, your own self. It's good like between PT appointments and stuff like that as well. So if you do have, if you are going to physical therapy, this is a good one for in between if you start having a flare up of pain. Again, talk with your doctor. Don't just get the book and start using it. Because sometimes if you overwork the muscle as well, if you over massage, it can make things worse. But this one, it's just really good to have it handy, especially if you do have like muscle issues. So really like that book. I really should use it a lot more. This last one is probably not, I can't highly recommend it because it's not for everybody. It's specific to pelvic pain. It's called A Headache in the Pelvis. And this book, I know that my condition is more of an autoimmune, maybe post-infectious type of illness. But I have had, muscle issues are one of my primary symptoms, muscle stiffness and just muscle weakness, just muscle problems. And it first started in my pelvic floor muscles. It was very painful in the beginning. Eventually I got to a physical therapist. She's the one that told me about this book. And actually these two doctors, I don't know if they're still alive. I mean, I'm guessing they are. Dr. David Wise, he's a psychologist. And this guy I think is a urologist. And they developed this protocol to help with pelvic tension because most people develop pelvic pain from holding tension in those muscles. You just don't know that you're holding tension in those muscles. Mine is more, neurological, but it has really good techniques. It has something called RSA breathing, and they describe RSA breathing and how to do it here. The meditation aspect of it, it's called paradoxical relaxation. You do sort of have to be trained in it. They do explain it, very similar to, has a little bit of a Buddhist undertone as well, but they do describe it in the book. Maybe some people are good at reading and catching on to how to do it. He does clinics in Santa Rosa, and actually did that clinic many, many years ago, where he teaches you how to incorporate that paradoxical relaxation. They do paradoxical relaxation, physical therapy, and you actually see a urologist just to rule out that you have any kind of like infection or any actual structural issues, issues with your organs. So if you've already ruled out all that stuff and you still have pelvic pain, this might be a good one for you. The RSA breathing alone is really, really helpful. It describes the overuse of those muscles and how that, ends up causing just continual contraction and pain. And it can apply really to any muscle group, to be honest. And I did notice when I first started doing the relaxation techniques and the physical therapy that it wasn't just my pelvic floor. My neck, my shoulders, I was holding tension in other places. And so it may also help you to identify where else you are holding tension. So it would be a good one. And it's a good one just to read so that you can identify whether you are one of those people that holds tension in your body and whether that can actually be contributing to some of your pain. If you're chronically ill, you're holding tension because you're in pain as it is. So you start holding tension just from the pain. So those are my top recommendations. I'm sure there are tons of other ones. If you guys have other ones, please leave them in the comments. I'm always interested in reading books, particularly if they pertain to chronic illness or wellness, that kind of thing. But these are my top picks and books that have helped me a lot over the last, almost 20 years. I can't guarantee that they're going to help you guys. And like I said, some of them are kind of specific, like the pelvic pain one. But sometimes just reading them, they have other helpful things that can, help other issues that you may be having. Or may lead you to a different answer, a different treatment modality that may be helpful. So that's what I have for you guys for today. Thank you for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.